Good morning, everybody. My name is Barry Schwartz, and this is the Search Buzz video recap. Today is Friday, April 2nd, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com. A lot to discuss. There was a possible Google algorithm update again this past weekend, and we're still waiting for that core update, which is about 4 or 5, almost 5 months now since we had the last one. We also had Google update their page experience Core Web Vitals FAQs. A lot more information in there, and I'll tell you what I found most interesting. 3, Google News. I believe the whole new submission issue in terms of manual submissions versus automatic submissions, I think that's a complete failure, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Also, Google seems to have moving from the local pack with 3 results down to 2 results. It used to be 7 results back in 2015. So a lot more information, a lot more on those stories, so stay tuned. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Loud Interactive, for sponsoring this week and sponsoring, I think, most of the year. So thank you very much. Loud Interactive is a Chicago-based SEO firm led by Brett V. Payne. You probably all know of him. So definitely check them out. Thank you, Loud. Appreciate it. Okay, so first up, this Google algorithm updates. It's constant, literally. I mean, it's like 1 every week, maybe even 2 every week. It's been since January. Insane. I don't know if I'm going to stop reporting about it because it just keeps going. We are waiting on that Google core update. It's been, I think the core update, the last one was December 3rd of 2020. So now we're waiting a full 4 months since the last core update tomorrow. So we should be due one soon, unless Google's stopping these core updates, which I don't know. But we will see. I bet you Google will release it over this weekend. I will be offline again for the last days of Passover. I'll be offline Friday night through Sunday night. So I'll be back Sunday night. I will be online Monday, which is great. In any event, there was this update. Not exactly sure why Google's releasing all these tiny updates, not confirming any of them. Some of them seem significant. This past one seems somewhat significant, although people are saying it kind of reversed itself on March 29th or so. So just keep that in mind. In other news, Google has updated its FAQs around the Core Web Vitals and Page Experience update. Now, Google released these FAQs originally in December of 2020, and then I guess 4 months later has updated those FAQs based on all the questions they got since December and now. It's vastly different. I mean, it's been updated, has tons, probably has 2 or 3 times as long as the original FAQs. The 2 things that really stand out for me in this FAQs is one, something I've been telling you guys since I don't even know when, that this page experience update will not be major. And Google said, our systems will continue to prioritize pages with the best information overall, even if some aspects of the page experience are subpar. A good page experience doesn't override having great relevant content. Again, downplaying how significant this update will be, calling it a tiebreaker also in this content. So just keep that in mind. Don't expect it to be too big. The other thing that Google announced in this was that, and this seems to be new to me at least, was that with the top stories carousel, Google said when this page experience update comes out, AMP will no longer be required to be included in top stories. Now, Google also said that these Core Web Vitals page experience update would probably be something that's used for this, but it's not. Google said you do not have to meet the minimum requirements or the requirements of, I think they said something like that. They said you don't have to clear all the requirements for these Core Web Vitals to be eligible for a top stories, to be eligible to show in the top stories carousel. So it seems like you don't need AMP, you don't need page experience update to qualify. I guess you qualify better. You will probably get in there more if you have it. I'm not sure. But Google said, no, you don't need it. Anyway, take a look at those FAQs. You can read it over the weekend or whatever. Print them out. They're pretty useful. Google has removed the interest form for asking Google to be included in the key moments where they show these video clips. I'll show a screenshot. In the Google search results showing video clips and links to different sections of your video. Now, Google generally shows YouTube videos, but if they don't, you could be included for this as well. So with YouTube, it automatically looks at the description, looks for timestamps in the description, and will then go ahead and show you this timeline feature. Google had this clip schema, this like structured data that lets you communicate to Google saying, here are the different sections of this clip, of this video, and then here are the timestamps you can include in there. So Google had that for lots of publishers. They initially said a small set. I wrote about it. It seemed like Google was going to only use it for YouTube. It's not the case. Google said they're going to now Probably not use the clips anymore, but use the general description information from any video provider or any video set and try to automatically show those clips for people. I initially thought they weren't going to do that. Danny Sullivan clarified. I posted clarification on the site. It's going to happen in the upcoming weeks, maybe months, they said. They don't have a timeline, and hopefully we'll keep you updated on that. In any event, if you are using clips, structured data, it might not, I have a feeling it might go away and Google might just handle it automatically. So just keep that in mind. John Mueller talked about EAT and e-commerce and medical, and we covered this before, but not specifically with e-commerce. So when the Medic update rolled out in like August 2018 or so, which I called it the Medic update, I got a lot of flack for calling it the Medic update because they were like, oh, my e-commerce site got hit, my blog site got hit, my site that discusses this and that got hit. But it wasn't just a medical site. I'm not running a health site. I'm not running a medical site where I'm selling, giving medical advice or anything like that. But John Mueller said in this video that even e-commerce sites that are selling medical equipment, medical supplies, et cetera, maybe drugs and so forth, do have some form of EAT they have to hit. Again, EAT is not a ranking signal, but there are other signals that could look like EAT. And you have to hit those stretch marks because they will be more critical and more, they'll consider that part of the YMYL category and then obviously be more critical around those types of sites, even if it's an e-commerce site. But that e-commerce site says medical equipment. So it's very interesting to see them say that. A lot of debate about that topic. He keeps saying this over and over again. So I would definitely, give some value in that if your site does sell this type of stuff or is in the medical health space, wellness space, et cetera, YMYL, your money, your life, financial sites, definitely take credence to that because you can't deny it anymore. You got to do something to kind of like boost your authority, your trustworthiness, expertise. All right, so I went off on a rant. I usually don't do these rants, but I went off on a rant about something that's not new. Google News in 2019, I believe December 2019, said that you no longer have to submit your site to be included manually in Google News, meaning you don't have to go to the Google News submission form and submit it and get approval. Automatically now Google will just automatically figure out what is news content, who's a news publisher, and then include that content in Google News, top stories, et cetera, et cetera. Now, for many new publishers, I think this is a huge failure. The number of questions that you see on Twitter, on the Google News forums, et cetera, is just absolutely insane about my site's not indexed, my site's not ranking in Google News, I'm not showing up in top stories. There's no way, a real good way for a new publisher to figure out, are they in Google News, are they healthy in Google News, and so forth. There is this Google News Publisher Center, but it doesn't really work so properly for smaller publishers. So I think that's a huge failure. Barry Adams went off, another Barry said, I got another email today from a newly launched publisher that's doing everything right in terms of tech and content, but is not getting any traction in Google News. The Google algorithm inclusion process is a farce. News on Google is poor for it. We need the manual approval process back. I kind of do agree with Barry. And then Rich from NARS, I'm not going to pronounce his last name, who I actually interviewed here, and you'll get the interview on my vlog, subscribe to my vlog as well, said, I 100% agree. It needs a serious overhaul. Tons of other people agree with that. And it's actually funny because in my vlog right before, John Chiata from Condé Nast, we spoke about this topic as well, which will be out again in the future. So make sure to subscribe to the vlog. I recorded it just a week or so ago, and it will be out in the upcoming weeks, months maybe. We talked exactly about this topic before we actually, I wrote about it here. So it's very interesting to see this. And I do agree with that. Google News needs to rethink that. On the Microsoft Bing side, Fabrice Canel from Bing went ahead and wrote a feature request in the WordPress saying, I want WordPress at its core, meaning built into the direct WordPress system, to integrate with the Bing Content Submission API, Bing URL Submission API, as well as other search engines to do it. Basically, I want whenever a piece of content in WordPress is new or updated to automatically push that content directly to Bing and other search engines. And he wrote up a spec for that. And he's hoping that Bing will actually do that. WordPress will actually integrate with that in the coming future. Also, on that topic, Fabrice said, I asked him about this, what's going on with the Content Submission API? Now, the Content Submission API is not submitting URLs to Bing, it's submitting the URL plus the content, the HTML, the images, all the other stuff that you get on the page without Bing having to actually go to the page and actually access the content. It's just basically sending Bing everything. It's in like a private API. It has been for like couple of years at least. I asked him what's going on. He said the Bing Content Submission API is still in a private beta test. We will publish documentation online next month, and we'll open it up to more sites, still limited access. So next month is this month, April. Hoping to see more information about that coming from Fabrice soon. Google Knowledge Panels, this is sad, could show alternative information. So if you do a search for a brand, in the knowledge panel on the right-hand side, it could technically show all your competitors. This is what happened to Whitespark. I couldn't replicate this. It actually happens to other people as well. You see it randomly come up here and there. I think it was removed, but I'm not exactly sure. But that is interesting to see. On the local front, it seems like in 2015, the local pack had 7 local listings in it. Then after 2015, or sometime in 2015, Google reduced the 7-pack to a 3-pack, so 3 local listings. Now a lot of people are seeing Google test showing a 2-pack, meaning only 2 listings. It's just pretty sad. I've seen it randomly come up, but I haven't been able to replicate this going forward. But I've seen it in the past when it's a very small query in a very limited area that might not have a lot of local businesses that offer that service. But again, it seems to be coming up for more generic keywords and so forth. On the local side as well, several months ago, Google said they're going to begin to notify businesses when they are suspended from Google My Business, Google Maps, local, etc. Ben Fisher noticed an email that he received this week saying, he got a notification from one of the businesses he manages that your business profile has been suspended. And it then tells you why it was suspended. In this case, it was an address issue. And then Luke Berry Pennycat, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, also received one of these and said your business profile has been marked as duplicate. So now Google's starting to send out these through Google My Business suspension or issue notifications, which is great. Glad they're doing this. Google on the local side also in the review section, a few months ago they were testing a new label for new reviews that are a month or so new. Now Google has rolled that out. So now if you are looking at reviews, you'll be able to quickly see if the review is new or not with a new label. Google Maps has announced a slew of new features, tons of them. The most interesting one to me is the improvements to curbside pickup and delivery. So they're actually integrating with some local restaurants and supermarkets to integrate curbside pickup automatically. So you could press, do the curbside pickup, handle it, and then say I'm here, and then tell you could actually enter what spot you're in, which is pretty cool. And also integration with delivery partners that will deliver the information there. In addition, didn't really cover the details on these other things that Google announced, but they announced live views or like street views for indoor travel, like inside airports and so forth, to navigate live indoors, maybe in malls. Stuff about quality of air and weather when you're traveling somewhere. And even Google Maps now defaults to the most eco-friendly options to get there, which is interesting and makes me want to use both ways, Google Maps and Apple Maps, at the same time to make sure I get the fastest way with the least maybe miles, but the fastest way as possible as opposed to the eco-friendly way, but maybe I'll change in that. On the Microsoft advertising side, Microsoft Advertising launched openly globally their automotive ads for Bing. Now it's available to advertisers in the US and UK. It's basically something that Google launched with Bing ads, I think in 2016, but this is really targeted around how automotive companies work, dealerships and manufacturers of cars. Also on the Microsoft advertising side, now if Google did this would be crazy. Basically, they're automating and auto-applying ad suggestions. So Microsoft gives you ad suggestions like any ad platform. You should raise your budget, you should use these ads, you should expand your keyword sets, etc. But now, if you do not respond to those ad suggestions within 14 days, Microsoft will automatically apply that ad suggestion to your campaign and automatically run with those ad suggestions. You could turn it off by default, you could deny them all, you'll get an email about this as well. But if you do not respond to anything, Microsoft will automatically do that. And then Rand Fishkin this week did an update to his zero-click study. He wrote about a bunch of different information around how he's going to improve the study and so forth. He basically broke down the data by US, saying in the US versus globally, the zero clicks are much higher. He also went ahead and explained that for queries like, I think Apple iPhone XS, the click-through rate is like 45% of sites get clicks outside of Google, whereas like a search for Donald Trump or something like that will have a 95% zero click-through rate, meaning very few people actually click because they're getting the Wikipedia, the knowledge panel, or whatever facts they're looking for right in Google. So obviously he's query dependent. He also said he is working hard to kind of categorize those queries by bucket. It's hard because there's bias in doing that, like what's a commercial query, what's a informational query, those types of things. It's hard to always judge that, but he will be trying to do that. And now I think it's Google's turn. Google needs to give us some data. Rand is trying to listen to the SEO community and break down that data. Google needs to give us something. All they said is we send more traffic to websites. That's all they said. But is the 65% number accurate? Yes or no? They didn't even say yes or no. They just say it's a misleading characteristic of that. Give us some information. Tell us how many percentages of searches are lead to refinements. Tell us how many percentages of searches lead to local results that click on website directions or maps or phone numbers. Tell us how many searches are informational, looking for weather or whatever. Just tell us something so we have something. And now it's your turn, Google, and you need to do something. And finally, Google has this great Easter egg for the evergreen being freed from the Suez Canal. It's basically just a lot of boats flowing through the water. If you do a search for evergreen or you do a search for Suez Canal on mobile or desktop, you will see it. In any event, thank you so much for listening to the Search Buzz video recap. My name again is Barry Schwartz. This is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at SEOroundtable.com. Thank you so much, Loud Interactive, for sponsoring. I really appreciate it. Everyone have a great weekend. Happy Passover. Happy Easter. See you guys next week, all right? Be well, be healthy, and be safe. Bye-bye.